Hi everyone, welcome to the Monkey Patching Podcast, where we go bananas about all things data and AI on Microsoft Fabric for the Fabric Data Days edition. My name is Murillo. I'm joined as always by my friend Bart.
Hey Murillo.
And today we have a special friend, we have a special guest here. We have Sam.
Hi.
Hey Sam. Maybe Sam, for the people that don't know you, would you like to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah. I'm Sam. Us three were all previously colleagues at Databroots. And today I work as a freelance data engineer. And I'm really passionate about lots of technologies, like Microsoft Fabric being one of them. And I share lots of things about it on meetups, conferences. I talk about Fabric, I blog about Fabric. I do open source things. And I got a Microsoft MVP award for my contributions to the community which related to Microsoft Fabric.
And what's you said, what award did you get?
The MVP award, so it's an award for community contributions for people who do these things quite a lot, like speaking and blogging and open source stuff, these kinds of things.
Very cool. We are here to talk about Microsoft Fabric. Yeah. This is also the Fabric Data Days, right?
Indeed, yeah.
So maybe before we jumped into Microsoft Fabric, what is the Fabric Data Days?
It's the biggest initiative with regards to Microsoft Fabric since Microsoft Fabric's launch. So it's 50 days throughout November and December where lots of community creators around the world share content about Microsoft Fabric, each with their own angle to it and so on. So you'll find lots of content on the Microsoft Reactor channels, and this one will also be there. This podcast. Yeah, where people can enjoy more content.
Yeah, it's going to show up there. We'll edit something out.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of content also being shared at the moment. We'll make sure that everything is in the show notes as well, so people can browse it.
Exactly, and maybe to kick off the conversation, right? Like, what is Microsoft Fabric?
What's Microsoft Fabric? Microsoft calls it the data platform for the era of AI. So it's Microsoft's current offering for data platforms if you want to build it on a Microsoft stack. They used to do these kinds of things on the Azure side with Synapse and Data Factory and these kinds of things. And then in 2023, they launched Microsoft Fabric, which is a single platform. It is basically, the platform itself is an evolution of Power BI, but then they added lots and lots of new features into it, which are inspired by, for example, Data Factory and Azure. There's a lake house, a data warehouse. There's one lake in Microsoft Fabric, which is the one place where all your data is centralized. They really approach it from the SaaS perspective to make it as easy as possible for everyone to start working with data, to basically consume your data in all the ways that you would need to or prefer. There's lots of integrations with AI, of course, these days as well. So it's a single place for all of your data, basically.
Okay. And is this an evolution of Synapse, or should we look at it as a completely different thing?
I would treat it as a completely different thing. In the beginning, there used to be some Synapse branding still in Microsoft Fabric, but today it's completely removed because there was this confusion with customers. Like, is it just Synapse with a new name slapped on it? But it's a completely new technology. Like I was part back in the days, not as an MVP, but just as someone who also deeply involved with Microsoft, providing feedback and these kinds of things, with Project Trident, which was the precursor to Microsoft Fabric while they were still developing it. And there was, for example, a time in Trident where there was no data warehouse yet. So they really built these things from the ground up again. They have the late mover advantage that they already know how companies like Databricks, Snowflake, BigQuery, and so on did it. And to not make the same mistakes and to not have to reinvent the wheel there a bit. Also learn from their own mistakes, I would say, with Synapse sometimes. And they really took the great things of their previous products like Power BI, Data Factory, Microsoft storage offering as well, and then integrated that into one solution, the SaaS solution, which is today Microsoft Fabric.
Okay, cool. So then if I were to start, like I say, let's imagine I'm sold. I want to start using Fabric. What can I expect as a developer? Like, is it like just notebooks? Is it like drag and drop stuff?
Basically all of them. They try to offer the services to each kind of persona. Like, you say you're a developer, so you're the developer persona in Fabric. you'd probably use mostly notebooks, Spark jobs, the MLflow integration, the Lakehouse. So yeah, everything is also today available through APIs. You could basically automate everything. If you're not a developer and you're someone more comfortable with drag and drop based tooling, there's also all of that still available. People coming from Power BI would feel right at home. People coming from UI-based tools would feel right at home. But also if you're really a developer, you would also feel right at home there.
So we were going to touch today a little bit also on the need of startups, right? And how that fits into the Microsoft Fabric offering. So I think, of course, startups is a very broad definition, but maybe we should narrow it down a bit to SaaS startups, like technical products, right? Building a technical platform. And I think these type of companies, like they typically look at a quote unquote data platform because they have a lot of different sources of data, like they have interaction data with their app over the website, they have billing data, they have customer support data, like they have all these kinds of different things, but to understand relevant metrics, you need to combine them, right? Yeah. And so looking at a single source is often not good enough, so you want to combine these sources in an efficient way, and then you start looking at a data platform. I think the challenge there is also like you have today a lot of offerings, right? You already mentioned quickly Databricks, you have Snowflake, you have all the big cloud providers have something. I think you can you can go to one of the big cloud offerings. Fabric is one of, right? Yeah. You can go do do everything yourself, more or less, like a bit of a combination of something like DuckDB or ModelDuck with Postgres or whatever combination you want to make in your stack, what fits. Hack something together, basically, up to something that is very robust. Or you have something in between that is really aimed at, like, we are the analytics stack for SaaS startups, like PostTalk, for example, which we really started from all interactions with your app, make it understandable, and then basically evolved to also ingest Stripe data and stuff like this. So it's really aimed at that specific set of customers. Why is Fabric interesting for a startup to look at?
What I think in that aspect is interesting in Fabric is it's really a single product where you don't have to spend time on integrating things to each other. Like you said it yourself, that you sometimes really have to hack things together to get them to work. And as a startup, I don't have the capacity or the interest or the budget to really spend time on things that don't deliver the actual value from my data. The metrics of my company, I need to understand how my company is growing and so on. I don't want to spend time figuring out how a certain API talks to this other API, how my data would land in this other place and so on. With Fabric, they really removed all the integration hassle. They make it as easy as possible. We can go over all different ways in detail later to get your data into Fabric. And then once it's there, it sits in what I call one lake. And when I really mean one lake, every organization has only one lake. It's centralized. And then from there, you can do with it whatever you want. If today your need is, I want to just have a simple report, just go for it and do a simple report. If tomorrow your need becomes, I want to be able to talk to my data and create a chatbot and have it in my Teams or Slack or something, then you can do that tomorrow. And there's no need to then look at, what kind of other solution do I need to pick? Find a new SaaS solution that offers this kind of service for me. If Fabric doesn't cover that need, you can still, of course, go that route and integrate with Fabric. But really, Microsoft wants to build your one-stop shop for everything and stop wasting time with these kinds of integrations that you have to build yourself.
Is there a scenario where Fabric is not well suited?
Maybe before I go there, the one-stop shop rings very true for me, because it was for a smaller project that I built something like this myself, but I used for data ingestion Airbyte, for storage ModelDuck, and then for dashboarding you need yet another thing. I think I used Evidence. Yeah. But you're basically on 3 different platforms to do like a very simple metric calculation, right? And it's like all of them, they are quite from an, let's say, engineering perspective, like very, very nice products, but it's also a hassle to have all of these things scattered around platforms.
And you're now fully mastering these products, but the moment you grow a bit, you want to focus on other kinds of things you want to do in your startup, and you have someone else on board to deal with the data, then they also have to master these technologies.
Because would you consider, because Microsoft has Power BI for dashboarding, if we talk about dashboarding, would you consider that part of the solution of Microsoft?
Power BI is definitely part of Fabric.
Okay.
Yeah, this is really the biggest difference with before and after Fabric. Is before you used to also, like we mentioned before, have to create your Synapse workspace on Azure, your data factory, your storage account, connect all these things together, wire them up with permissions and security and all these kinds of things. And today, you don't go to azure.com anymore. You go to powerbi.com, which is then often redirected to Fabric now. And you just have your workspaces in which you can create all of these items and they all talk to the same data.
Okay. And then, like, how easy is it to get started? Let's say you have something simple like an e-commerce store on Shopify, which is probably well-maintained integration, I can imagine.
I don't know by heart, but
yeah, but I could imagine that something like Shopify is supported. I have Google Analytics, also something that is widely recognized. Like, I just want to get some very basic metrics. So I want to start this whole flow from ingestion to storage to visualizing something, like not something that is robust and like ready for the next 5 years, but just how long does it take to get to the first experiment where you can see this whole flow?
First of all, the sign-up process is really simplified these days. You would go to fabric.microsoft.com. They offer you a free trial for 60 days, which gives you what they call a fabric capacity of 64 capacity units. This is quite a powerful thing. This is what people used to pay about 5K per month for Power BI or for Fabric now as well, at least. So you really get all the power of Fabric from day one in those 60 days. And then your workspace, you always have like the My Workspace that I pre-create. You can create a new one. This literally takes a few seconds. And from there, you can start creating Fabric items. And a Fabric item can be something to ingest data. Like I said, I have multiple ways to ingest data. For this, I probably would look at a data flow or a copy job that then talks to these data sources, and really in a what I call zero ETL way. I don't have to spend any time on coding anything to get my data in. I would just connect to the source. I have to provide credentials like you have to do.
That means that there is like a drag and drop interface for ingestion.
Yeah. The data flow is more like the drag and drop. It like in Power BI they also had this feature where you have this UI and then you load your data, then you see the table in front of you, and then you could say transpose rows, columns, these kinds of things, rename this column. Copy jobs is a bit simpler. It just lets you tell you these are the tables I want, pull them in, and then do it on a schedule with CDC based like increment changes and so on, and it's done. And you launch it and schedule it, and it will keep on ingesting data for you. Once your data is there, next part is probably the simplest thing is to create a Power BI report from it. So first in the semantic model, which is just your tables that you put in, like either a lakehouse or a data warehouse, where then try to make sense of your data. This is also something you can again choose. You want to do it low code based, like with drag and drop visual queries, or you do it with SQL or with Python, whatever you prefer. And then, like I said, the Power BI reports where you start to visualize your data, or maybe you want to do some automation with data activator, like have you receive an alert when there's a new customer, these kinds of things.
Yeah. I hadn't heard about it. Data activator is called. Yeah. Is it like an offshoot of Power Apps, or is it not?
It's not an offshoot of Power Apps, but I think Power Apps is indeed a bit comparable with it. It's basically a thing where you could set rules on your data. They have to be in Power BI or some other place data
like a monitor. Event workflow. You were
before no, because it feels like it's very complete. There's a lot of things that come out of the box.
Yeah.
But then also my question is like, is there anything that you say these types of problems let's not go to Fabric because it's not a good fit? Or is it really designed to be a solution that is flexible and comprehensive? And
well, Microsoft, of course, in the long run wants that question to be answered with no, that you should be able to go to Fabric for everything. And what I do like with Fabric a lot is that they release weekly. There's really lots of features coming out every week, and it's a disadvantage as well as an advantage. Like I'm speaking at a conference in Belgium next week where we talk about lessons learned, and this is one of the things, like you have to accept the constant change in Fabric, which is good in some aspects, not so good in other aspects. So if you today work with lots of sensitive data, PEI data, and you want to granularly control who has access to that data, Fabric has the tools for it, but I would say there's still room to improve today. They have this feature that they announced, I think it was in the summer and a bit before the summer, One Security, or now it's called One Lake Security, which is really the one place to govern all of that. I like to set access control and so on. but it hasn't made its way yet to, for example, data warehousing yet. Of course, the goal is that it gets there as well, but this is part of this constant evolution. They're slowly building this up. They're learning from customers what are their needs and how would they see this feature working. If they want a fully finished product in that sense, maybe Fabric is not the right choice yet, but yeah, I think at some point it will be.
Yeah, from what you're saying, it's evolving quickly, right? So
Yeah.
in the near future, not like, we're not talking years, right?
Yeah.
Maybe what I would also like always think about when you choose a product like this is like in the coming year, how much am I going to spend on it? Like whether it be in the context of a startup or a large corporation. Like how easy and transparent is this to calculate this upfront? I already heard you mentioning something about capacity units.
Yeah. Yeah, it is quite a complex thing, the capacity by itself, I would say. It's also helping customers to make more sense of their spending. So you used to, in Azure, if you would have used their data services, just pay for what you use typically. But if you would have your data warehouse and signups or something running the whole month, you would pay, I think, at least €1,000 a month, even if you didn't run a query. And that's a fixed cost and there's not much scaling into it. And you can only use it for your data warehouse. In Fabric, everything you do, whatever you want to do, it's a notebook, even Copilot usage or running a SQL query or clicking on something in your Power reports, translates into the usage of your capacity units. This gives you as the startup owner the reliability in terms of cost that you reserve this, well, you don't reserve it, you should maybe reserve it, but you have this capacity that you pay with a fixed monthly cost. And I think it starts at, like, depending on your currency and your region and so on, about €250 a month, $250. And this gives you straight away all the features in Fabric, with the one limitation that you cannot share Power BI reports to people outside of your organization. And then if you're happy with that capacity, with what it offers, then you can keep that cost of €250 per month and you don't have to worry about, will I have to pay more this month because I did something more. I think those 60 first days in trial are typically the best time to try out a few things, get a good idea of how much capacity you would consume if you would pay for it. And then from then on decide, okay, I want to keep using these workloads and this is probably the amount of data I'm going to move, transform, consume on a daily basis. And then you can make a good estimation of these are the capacity units I need. And then from then on, pay that on a monthly basis.
And those capacity units, they give you access to everything around it. So also Power BI and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Indeed.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, the only limitation, as far as I know, but like you should consult Microsoft Learn if you want to be sure, of course, is that if you want to share your reports outside of your own organization, like to external users, then you need to have this F64 capacity, the one that starts at $5,000 per month.
Yeah, I would argue the 250 is not expensive if you use it, but it's expensive to try out. But that's where the trial then comes in.
Yeah, you have your 60 days that and it's per user. So you can try it out for 60 days, then Morila can try it out. You can just share your trial account with Morila during your first 60 days. So you basically have lots of wiggle room to try it out first. And specifically for startups, Microsoft also has offerings where you basically get free credits. And
startup credits, yeah. Interesting, because I can imagine that for Microsoft and other players, and this feels like we want to hook companies very early on into a data platform because it's very sticky, right? Like it's hard to migrate everything away. So there is an incentive to like let people try out without committing too much and then make them addicted, right?
Hook them.
Yeah. Well, what I like about Microsoft Fabric is that it's really built on open technologies. Like they adopted Delta Lake, originally developed by Databricks for the storage. Everything in one lake is in Delta Lake or Iceberg.
Is it transparent? Like do you see where it's stored and like is it stored in pre-existing Microsoft resources? Or?
So it's in this one lake that you have over your whole organization. And basically for storing data, you could store it in a lake house, in a warehouse, or streaming data, which is then stored separately.
And is one lake in itself, like, is it an abstraction of Azure Blob Storage, or is it something completely separate?
Yeah, behind the scenes is Azure Data Lake Storage. And
Azure Data Lake,
And these lakehouse and warehouse objects that you create, they are not really things you have to spin up. Like you create them, they are just logical things that take 3 seconds to create. And basically they become like folders in your one. So you have your workspace as a folder, inside that workspace, your lakehouse or your warehouse. But you can use any tool that you want, like Azure Storage Explorer or any kind of open source tool, like the FS spec also works there, to then look into that storage and work with that Delta Lake. If you don't want to use any of the Fabric engines, you could use DuckDB to talk to your data in one lake. You could go to, I don't know, AWS and run Spark there on Glue and talk to your one data.
It's very open, yeah. That's nice. And can you explain the difference between the warehouse and the lakehouse?
Yeah, I think lakehouse as a term is in today's data landscape probably quite popular and like the way to go. Like Databricks calls themselves. I don't call it anymore. I think the lakehouse company, they used to call themselves that. Like everyone wants to be a lakehouse because it's nice. The story of separation of storage and compute. You have your data lake, which is super flexible, can take in any kind of data, be it images, videos, or relational data. And then you decouple your compute and do whatever you want with that data. And Fabric always works like that, regardless if you're using warehouse or lakehouse. But the difference in Fabric is more about how you work with that data. In the lakehouse, you have full ownership of your data and you also have the responsibility to manage it yourself. Like if you work with Delta Lake, one of the things people have to do is optimizing those Delta Lake tables. There's Spark that optimize command or vacuum command, which removes files that you're not using anymore. If you're using the data warehouse, you don't have to think about it. Then Microsoft does that for you. Disadvantage there is that you also cannot directly use any Spark engine, like I just said, to talk to that Delta. You would have to use SQL.
More managed version of the lakehouse?
Yeah, indeed.
Is that a way to put it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You mentioned like separating these things. Thought that I had is also when it comes to Gen AI, because sometimes you also need low latency on your data, right? Like if you have an agent for a customer, I need to fetch all your history, and it makes a few tool calls, right? Is Fabric AI ready? What are the AI capabilities of Fabric? And I know this is very hype space as well. So
yeah, and it's very broad, and I'm also not probably the best person to answer that question, but it's definitely AI ready. You mentioned Gen AI, so I'll focus on that. They of course have Copilot in everything in Fabric integrated. So you have Gen AI assisted coding and building wherever you go. If you're in Power BI, you can ask it to build a report for you based on your data. If you're in Data Factory, you can ask it to create your activities, link them together. If you're in a notebook, of course, it will generate Python code for you. If you're in Datarise, it will generate SQL code for you. So the developer side is fully covered. Then in the consumption side, if you want to make that data available to your business, they have the possibility to, from your semantic models that you use for Power BI, easily create chatbots to basically talk to your data. And of course, the more time you put in it, the better it will become. But it's as easy as selecting the tables in your data warehouse and then telling Fabric now create, I don't know what's the name anymore. It used to be called AI skill. Create this based on these tables. It will generate that for you. The next thing is integrate it into Teams and boom, you're done. Like it can take 10 minutes if you want.
And then this AI skill, you said you forgot the name, but like, is it like transforming the data into like vectors or something? Like this has a vector storage thing underneath, or is it just moving the data so like an agent can actually talk to it or something? Do you know?
I don't know behind the scenes what it's doing. I think it's called Data Agent now, by the way.
Data Engine.
Data Agent, yeah. But it's basically the RAG concept. And I think it uses the metadata of your tables to understand exactly what your data is about. That's why I said it uses a semantic model. And the more effort you put into building the semantic model of your data, what you have to do for Power BI anyway, but the more you create these measures and so on, the better the data agent will become at understanding your data and knowing how it has to behind the scenes and run a query or something for you.
Maybe if we take the AI segue, does Fabric also support vector databases? Does it have its own offering there?
That I don't know by heart. Might be, yeah. They have recently offered offering SQL databases into Fabric, like the regular operational databases.
That I know, yeah. I'm not sure if it's actually part of Fabric or that it's considered separate.
That SQL database is part of Fabric, and I know SQL Server 2025, the latest release, also supports vector-based storage. Yeah. So I would assume that one also supports vector-based storage. And I know people have built racks with Fabric, so there is some kind of way. As a platform is so big and it evolves weekly, I already try to keep up with the things that I have to use in my daily job and so on. But,
of course. Okay, maybe a topic on which there are a lot of opinions. ELT, if we talk about the part, what's considered the best practice way of doing transformations on Fabric?
The best practice way,
Or let's say the Microsoft suggested way.
yeah, this is, I think they keep it really open there. We typically see the bronze, silver, gold, the medallion structure coming up quite a lot in documentation from Microsoft, in blog posts, and in the data space in general. And then the question is, like, do you go for lakehouse or for warehouse in Fabric to store that data? So one thing we talked about is how managed that data is, but also typically in the lakehouse, you would most of the time use Spark as an engine to talk to that data, or anything Python based. While with the warehouse, you would typically use anything SQL based to talk to your data.
Okay.
And
because there is already a query engine for you.
Yeah, the warehouse comes with the SQL query engine that Microsoft built for the warehouse specifically, which is like the new technology they built from the ground up now for Fabric. While in the lakehouse integrated Spark, Microsoft has their Fabric native execution engine, which is like Photon in Databricks and runs 2 to 4 times as fast depending on your query. So people who are more comfortable with Python could go with that route and do it in notebooks. Within notebooks, you have, for example, Data Wrangler, if you're not that comfortable with writing your own code, where you could also like do selections, drag and drop, and do statistical analysis on your columns, and then filter out, join data, and these kinds of things. If you want to go more with the data warehouse, that's also possible. Like, I think typically silver as a layer is a lakehouse or a warehouse, and gold as a layer is typically a warehouse.
Okay.
But you could for both of them use both the lakehouse or the warehouse. If you go the SQL route, then we have Microsoft has this thing called SQL database projects, which I think they had this for years, which you then create your sub-procedures, your views, and so on. This is all built in. They also, yesterday at Microsoft Ignite, they have this yearly conference, Ignite, in November each time, announced integrated support for dbt. So you can create dbt jobs within Fabric itself, like there's an editor for your dbt codes, you can schedule it there. And it doesn't even have to be stored in Fabric, it can talk to even your data on Postgres or on Snowflake as well.
So that means that if you go the dbt route, which a lot of people consider best practice today, right?
Often, yeah.
Then you don't, even if you want to go the quote-unquote managed route, you don't even have to go to dbt Cloud anymore. You can just stay within Fabric.
Yeah, indeed.
Very good for the Fabric customers, probably painful for
not so much because
Five-Friend today.
Part of the announcement yesterday was that they support dbt Fusion in this integrated dbt editor, which is...
And that's really a proprietary.
If you integrate Fusion into a paid product that offers similar features as dbt Cloud does, then you would have to buy a license. So Microsoft has to pay a certain amount of money.
But that's good. I think that's good that there is money flowing back to the actual creators.
Yeah, indeed.
And can you explain what dbt Fusion is?
Yeah, dbt Fusion is the evolution of dbt. It's usually the adverb you'll hear with Fusion is faster, because it's faster development, faster runtime, cheaper to run your things. Basically, if you summarize dbt core as a tool itself, it's a thing that concatenates strings. Is lots of things, and it can help you. As you know, I'm really convinced of dbt as the Belgian dbt meetup organizer as well. But the dbt as a tool is quite simple in what it does. It does not understand your SQL. It never parses your SQL. It basically concatenates strings by using Jinja. And then with dbt Fusion, they rebuilt the entire thing from the ground up. Well, they actually acquired a company that did this and then integrated it into dbt. And they now fully understand your SQL. They really parse the syntax tree. They know exactly what you're going to do. So even before your query hits the data warehouse, it will already be optimized by knowing basically can filter out these rows because I filtered out in a previous query or something. And
does it also give, because it parses the SQL, does it also gives like developer help, like hints or errors or something?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, because when you're writing dbt code with dbt core, you could do select, list columns that don't exist from a certain source or ref. dbt would check that the source or ref exists, but it doesn't know about the columns because it doesn't understand SQL. With Fusion, it does know about your entire project. So it indeed will let you know if a column doesn't exist. If you're using VS Codes with the dbt extension, which is now officially developed by dbt Labs, you'll get syntax highlighting, but also auto-completion on those column names, on your SQL keywords.
And it almost functions like, aside from the query optimization, it almost functions a bit like a language server, right?
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
Interesting.
And also, I think with this, I think I saw somewhere that even for lineage, right, because it actually understands the query, you can even go from column level, like this column depends on these columns with this table and this. So you have also a deeper insight how everything is working as well, right?
Indeed. The previous one only used to give you a table level or view level lineage. Now with DB Fusion, you always get column level lineage. You also used to get this with DBT Cloud already, but the secret sauce there is that they did have some kind of tool behind the scenes in DBT Cloud that parse your SQL as well. So
and it all on Fabric. So if you go to Fabric, it's just there. You don't have to set anything up. You just benefit from all these things kind of just by going to Fabric.
Yeah, it's still very new, and I've tried the preview a few months ago, which still had some rough edges. So the announcement was yesterday, so I haven't tried it out yet. But the idea is that this whole experience comes to Fabric built in. You don't have to open your VS Code. You don't have to navigate from that single tab where you have Fabric open. Can basically in Fabric at one point added some things in DBT with Fusion support. Click run and next switch to your Power BI report where you already have your results and start building a visual from it.
Does it have, like you mentioned, also DBT Cloud? Does it offer the same things, a subset of things? If someone is on DBT Cloud today, is that a good proxy for what Fabric offers?
No, I think DBT Cloud is probably still the superior tool to use if you want a more managed DBT solution. Fabric is probably good for people already using Fabric and then want to use DBT. Yeah, and then if they, again, really want to go a lot further with DBT, and DBT is their main thing that they work with, probably DBT Cloud might again be a better fit, because it still comes with the DBT Explorer where you can really dig deep into your documentation about your models and test results. DBT Cloud is where really DBT users will probably feel a bit more at home. It's a bit easier to work with DBT itself. But if DBT is one of the workloads that you're working with in Fabric, then the DBT job in Fabric is probably what you're looking for.
Maybe if we zoom out a little bit, like uptake of Fabric as a data platform, like do you know about numbers? Like for example in Europe, like customer base, like is it doing well? Is it doing not well?
So Fabric today, the exact amount of customers, probably it's also announced again yesterday. They update it each time. It's over 20,000 customers that use Fabric, and those are not just customers who are using Power BI like they did before, but really Fabric features in Fabric. Most customers also use more than one workload in Fabric. From what I understood, this is more than the amount of customers of Databricks and Snowflake combined. Yeah, I probably look up how many customers it is exactly, but they announced it every 6 months or something. And I thought almost 90% of the Fortune 500 companies are using Fabric nowadays. And Microsoft is also named leader in all of the Gartner quadrants with regards to data and AI.
That's a very complete offering, right?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. They're already leader in the AI part, and now they really became good in data integration and data warehousing and so on as well. So
maybe you mentioned AI as well. So we talked a bit about Gen AI, but also for machine learning. So if you want to actually have your data, so you already mentioned the data kind of goes in one lake, right, in one place. Where am I head of machine learning engineer now? Like I want to build my own models. How is the experience there? What are the services? I know Azure, they have like Azure ML. I know there are other services as well. I know they have integrations with MLflow. How does that fit into Fabric?
It's a bit similar to the DBT story, right? So the experience is that if you're using Fabric already, your data is there in one lake. That's the most crucial part, getting your data in one lake. And then from there on, if you just want to build a few models, you want to use MLflow to check your experiments and so on, that's all available in Fabric itself. There's a data science capability in Fabric for all of that. But of course, ML Studio, which is I think mostly part of AI Foundry these days, is not going away. And you see deep plays for data scientists, I would say, and it integrates directly with Microsoft Fabric. So you could load your data in Fabric in one lake and then switch over to AI Foundry and there train your models as you're used to before, where you have basically all the tools available. But if you are not a specialized machining engineer and you just want to train a few models, then probably you're good to go with the notebook itself or Spark jobs in Fabric.
So it sounds like the Fabric is a good first place to go.
Yeah.
Get a bit like situated, but then if you really want to dive in, there's still the possibility to go to a
Branch
more
out,
specialized
indeed,
thing.
yeah.
Interesting.
I don't have to worry about reloading your data or connecting it and these kinds of things. It's already there.
Maybe also a bit looking at the time, a good closing question. Let's assume we have some listeners around, let's say, 25 years of age, and they are very passionate about the data engineering domain,
Yeah.
and they're looking to be like maximally employable in the coming 10 years. Like, and I know that you're biased in this, but like what skill set, technical skill set I'm talking about, should they focus on? Like, should they go all in on something more quote unquote proprietary, like Fabric, like Databricks, like Snowflake, or should they focus on really learning the OpenStack, right?
Yeah.
Like what is your best bet to be maximally employable as a passionate data engineer going forward?
Well, I think most, so we're not talking about startups anymore, and if you just look at the amount of jobs you have, you'll find most jobs working with Snowflake, with Databricks, with Fabric, with AWS SageMaker, Glue, and these kinds of things. And what's common in all of them is basically the way of working and the technologies. Like all of them in some kind of way work with SQL, work with Spark, notebooks, these kinds of table storage formats like Delta Lake and Iceberg. I think the key is to understand these kinds of things. And I, for example, in Fabric, I usually avoid the proprietary things like Data Flow Gen 2, which is super powerful and super easy to get started with. But this is an actual lock-in that if you use this kind of tool, there's no way to bring that knowledge experience or migrate at some point to anything else.
What is Data Flow Gen 2?
Well, this is the UI thing where you could basically see your table and like in Power BI, do all kinds of transformations just by clicking in the UI. But it doesn't translate to code behind the scenes. The principles of working with data, understanding the process of first cleansing your data, then transforming it into dimensions and facts or something. This is common and this is something you can use in all of those tools. And I think that is probably the most crucial part if you're working with data. But then if you're on a more technical level, I would each time focus a bit more on the tools which are common in all of these platforms. Like all of them probably are these days compatible with dbt. All of them are these days compatible with Spark. And in technical knowledge, I think that will help you most. And then, of course, you can get certified in all of those things. And now with the 100 Fabric Data Days initiative, you also get free Fabric certification vouchers. So you can follow Microsoft Learn, which is completely free, of course, as well, and then get your certification and then increase your employability a bit.
Cool.
Very cool. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you for joining. Anything else you want to say before we call it a pod?
Any resources on Fabric that people should definitely read or follow or join in terms of events?
Well, there is a FabCon coming up, which is 2 times a year, each time once in the US, once in Europe. The next one is in Atlanta.
The link here.
Yeah. I think it's fabcon.com, so it isn't too hard. It's in March somewhere. I might be speaking there.
Oh, wow.
We confirmed yet.
People do want your signature. They need to go.
If my signature,
exactly.
If I give
stand in line.
Yeah. And then the FabCon in Europe is in Barcelona next year in September. So this is always a nice place to connect to the community. And there's local meetups in every country that has meetups. Well, I think there's quite a lot actually. That's my blog, but I don't blog too much anymore.
What's your blog?
It's my last name, Debruyn.dev.
Debruyn.dev.
Yeah. And now with the data days, of course, you can go to the Fabric Data Days initiative and then follow all the content of all the other creators there as well.
And you're also going to be speaking about Fabric on a conference soon as well.
Well, at the time of the recording, the conference is next week. By the time the release of the recording is probably already passed. And then the next one I'm speaking is in Oslo at Fabric February. Yeah.
So many links.
Probably also fabricfebruary.com, I think. It's usually not too hard to find those things.
Very cool.
Okay. Thanks a lot for joining, Sam.
It was a pleasure.
Yes, thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
An honor to have a Microsoft MVP here in the podcast.
Yeah, it's true. No, thanks a lot. Good luck on your conference talk as well. if anyone wants to reach you, is there any best place to
Yeah, some at Debruyn.dev, first name at last name .dev again.
and you want to show off your sock before we go? I see
My
your-
sock? No,
I
it's
see
not
his,
dental. No,
his-
it was because my
He's already like had this.
the shoes is it's fabric socks.
Yes,
There you
actual
go.
fabric socks.
Yeah, actual
That is
fabric
next
socks.
level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's when you know it's like bleeds fabric, right?
Yeah.
Like- All right. No, thank you very much. Thanks, Bart.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening and watching, and see everyone next time.
See you next time.
Ciao.